New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good afternoon and welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. I am Rev Gina and I am blessed to be here with you as we find our way to joy. You know, it's not something that's out there. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to necessarily do anything at all. It's just within us. Any unchangeable, that is one of those unchangeables that is spirit within us. So it's your birthright. It's simply tapping into it in any given moment. And sometimes that's easy when we're with certain people or when we're in this place of, life is going exactly as we want it to. That's great. But what happens when it isn't? See, finding the joy in the journey is that reminder that it's not about when I get there. So many of us were taught to strive for goals. And as a life coach, of course, that's what I tell people all the time and I help people set them and achieve them. But it's not about what we achieve. It's in the achieving. It's the steps we take to get there that matter. It's not the destination, because there is no destination. At the end of that, you find another. And at the end of that, you find another. It's as if you were going up a mountain. Every step of the way is beautiful. Yes, when you get to the top, it's gorgeous, but you can't see the details you could see as you stepped along the way. And that's what life is like. How many times do we think back to certain memories and wish we were there, wish we were with those people, and when we were there, we were rushing through it. So it's about being present in this now moment where our power is, and above all, where our joy is. So we come together every week and we have wonderful guests that help us find our way back to joy or to recognize when we're in it. And today is absolutely no different. Today, a good friend of mine and someone that I love and adore is with us today, who's been here before several times. And she's a powerful woman that just exudes joy. And we've got Bonnie Gonzalez, and she is your doula for grief. She has a show here on New Thought Media Network. But Bonnie is also a registered nurse, a licensed practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living, and a professional life coach. She's a licensed soul collage facilitator and a doula for grief. She's a former hospice and palliative care nurse. Bonnie currently has the weekly program from New Thought Media Network entitled Your Doula for Grief, Demystifying Grief, bringing grief out of shadow of life, illuminating its gifts and state of grace. And she's also on CSL's visioning team, as well as the secretary for CSL's Global Outreach Committee. She's an amazing woman, and I am so grateful to have her here with us today. Bonnie, welcome.
Hello, my sister, Reverend Gina. I am so happy to be here with you today.
It is wonderful to be here with you. And we have a wonderful topic that you've chosen. We're going to talk about the gifts of grief. And, I know a lot of people don't think those two things go together, but they absolutely do. There's things, everything we walk through in life has something to give us. So tell me a little bit of why this is your choice. But before we do, how are you?
I am wonderful. I'm down here in Mexico and we are hot as Hades. And I hear that you are cold as a iceberg up there.
I have sweater on top of sweater, and I'm not that person. It's freezing in New England.
Polar opposites. But I am doing wonderful. And your show today, just the title, Finding Joy in the Journey, it's just so resonating with where I have been all week, or for the last couple of weeks, being in the joy of our journey, of our lives. Absolutely. And I'll tell a cute story, but I want to see if you have another question for me.
No, go right. Tell a story. Go right ahead.
Before I tell my cute story, being a doula for grief, and I was with a group a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, and someone asked, "What do you do?" And I said, I am a grief coach, and that I bring comfort to people that are grieving. And this one lady turns to me and she whispers, like under her breath, like, "Aren't you depressed? How can you be so happy about something that's so depressing?" And I said, "Oh, honey," I said, when I am talking about grief, all burners are fully lit. I am just illuminated. I said, because grief is our biggest life teacher. It's a big life teacher. And if we can embrace it, we can learn so much, or bring so much ease to our lives. I'll put it that way, ease to our lives by embracing grief. And so that was that, and I let that go. But in January, I found myself severing a long friendship. It's just a series of events. Sometimes that happens. And loss is what causes our grief. So it's a loss of a deep, intimate friendship that really just put me into that state of grief. And I was with it because I know that I need to walk through my fire. I just do. There's no way around that. But okay, so every day I'm journaling to the situation. I'll keep it in the eye. I tend to ruminate on our last conversation and what they said, and if they had not said, blah, blah, just ruminating. I was meditating, journaling. I was just doing everything I could to move through this and to get this behind me. And in my meditation practice one morning, I'm just really meditating, but the only thoughts that were there were thoughts about sex. I mean, sex, different positions. Oh my gosh, anatomy parts. I thought, Bonnie, you could have stayed in bed for this. You didn't need to get up and come meditate on sex. And then I thought, Reverend Gina, I'll just go with that. I'll go with those images. I'll go with whatever comes up in this meditation. And it was more about the aspect of sex, but in the way that it's pleasurable and how we feel, a give and take, and just that kind of beautiful, pleasurable interaction. And so I let myself be with it. And then after the meditation, I sometimes draw an oracle card. So I had that meditation, and then the oracle card I drew was pleasure. I'm going to hold it up. I don't know if you can see it. But anyway, it's pleasure. And here's what the card has to say about pleasure. And it said, relax. Have fun. Allow good times to roll. Life is to be enjoyed, not endured. Whether it's a fun day at the beach or having a wild sexual romp with your lover, allow yourself to enjoy and have pleasure. And that's why your show was so resonating with me today. It is about finding the joy in the journey. And I love when you said that there is no destination. No. If anything, Reverend Gina, I feel like we're living the destination every day. Every day is a destination with a new starting point. So,
And we get to choose.
oh my gosh, choice is just always there, always there. So, thank you for letting me share that bit of why Joyce, joy. I mean, life is to be enjoyed.
Yes.
So I thank you for having a show that is the theme of enjoying this.
It's
Beautiful.
reminding, every time we do the show, it reminds me too. I was sharing with you before the book that I have right in front of me. It's
Yes.
beside me. I was about to move it and put it somewhere. And it's Feeling is the Secret by Neville
Mm.
Goddard. And I was reminded of this book at a Sunday service a few weeks ago at Concordia CSL. And that's why we go, to be reminded. You know,
Yes.
I get more out of service today than I did as a newbie because I understand
Mm.
different things. And I remind myself sometimes when we know something, it becomes routine. And it's almost like, yes, you tie your shoes, but you don't think about. So
Yes.
when you're in service and someone is giving a message and it's so powerful, that's when we were reminded, oh, yes, I still need to be a beginner. I still need
Mm.
that beginner's mind.
Yes.
And I
Right.
need those reminders everywhere to keep myself in the
Mm.
feeling of what I choose. And
Yeah.
grief can be one of those things more than anything that knocks us off of
Mm.
out of our routine, but
Yeah.
also out of that role that we can be on. And it
Mm-hmm.
comes in so many forms. And I know that you work with this all the time. And before we get into the gifts of it, I would
Sure.
love for you to maybe talk a little bit about identifying the different types.
Of grief.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. Mm. Let me start with one I think that is most prevalent to us all. Is accumulative grief. Cumulative. Because those are that type of grief is what can really lay us low, if you want to say. If I'll use that term. And cumulative grief is when you have multiple losses, one followed by another, another followed by another. Almost like taking a punch to the gut and not being given time to recoil and to take a deep breath before you get another hit and another hit. And that is what's happening with so many people in our culture today. Maybe you lost your job, then there was a divorce, and then maybe your dearly beloved pet dies. Maybe a beautiful friend moves away and you no longer have that connection.
Health
That
loss
is,
too. I
and
want to add that in, losing, whether you lose a job, whether things that take something from us in some way.
right. Oh, and now that you said that, take that away from us. I just heard the origin of the word bereaved, when you're the bereaved, and you can be bereaved around numerous things. But bereaved means to be robbed, that you were robbed of some joy, some gift. When you lost whatever it was that was lost, you were robbed of that end result of having that.
It comes in so many forms. Sometimes we
Yes.
don't even recognize that's the word of what we're experiencing. And there's
It's
such a stigma around it that people are afraid to step into it as if it was poisoned water. And it's not. Even when you're there, people are still often afraid to bring it up. So that's why you're putting the light, shining the light on it.
Yes. And, I've been doing this grief work for a while now. And I also do something called Death Cafe. And so it's just with some folks from Death Cafe. And the subject came up, believe it or not, Reverend Gina. And someone said, oh, the most number one, do you know the most number one not talked about subject? And I thought, oh, yes, I know, it's death. And the person said, no way, that's not even number one. It's like, no, wait a minute. I've been doing this long enough to know better. They said, no, that the number one most not talked about topic is grief. People do not talk about being in grief.
It's
anytime
an inconvenience. People often think of it as an inconvenience, and they have the attitude of, is that are you done yet? Is it over? Shouldn't it be done? I can't tell you how many times I've thought that. Shouldn't I be over this by now? Now I teach this, and I know that that's not the truth. And but yet I tell myself, shouldn't I already, and all the things that go with that.
Right.
I used to teach it's like a 10-week different topic for a center that I had worked for. And every week was a different topic. And every time grief came, and people would go to all the different weeks, there'd be different numbers every week. It wasn't, but whenever grief came about, I was lucky to get one or two.
See, that proves the point.
It is absolutely true. And I mean,
it's number one. But Reverend Gina, when I'm giving talks and when I always ask the question as well, I just say, take a moment and tell me what comes to mind when you hear the word grief. When you hear the word grief. It's always about death. People think it's always about death. And it's like, no, we suffer a myriad of losses.
Yes.
Every day, every week, a myriad of losses that then put us in grief. So I want to make the connection that it is loss that leads to grief. And therefore, I'm feeling that if people held it that way, then you'd be freer to talk about what it is that you're grieving, or realizing what it is that you're lost and that now you're grieving.
It's honoring it, and when we recognize it and we pay attention to it and allow the feelings to come like a wave, they will wash away. Yes. But when we fight it, what we resist persists, and we internalize it, and it builds and it builds. And it can take us under. It's got an undertow to it, and it will find us.
And it'll find you in lots of ways, whether you lose it through anger because your French fries weren't hot enough at your restaurant, or that you have, there's illness, or you have some accident because you're so distracted with it. But I did want to get back to your question about the different types of grief. So there's cumulative, which means multiple losses, one after the other. Collective, what we're suffering, collective grief, when we hear about all the wars and devastation, we're all in that one mind, really, being really in grief over whatever that loss or tragedy or natural disaster is. But also there's anticipatory grief, anticipating maybe the loss of a loved one, anticipating the loss of a job, anticipating a move that's going to happen. So that's anticipatory grief. And I don't know if you're aware of something called disenfranchisement grief. It is like areas that our grief is belittled. Say that my ex-husband died. It's like, oh my God, you were divorced 35 years ago. How could you be grieving that? Or, especially
my mom had a hard time with that.
Exactly.
You know, my
Exactly.
mom had a hard time. She was very frustrated that people didn't acknowledge her when my
Hmm.
dad transitioned. And,
Yes.
it was one of those things that I'm like, because she wasn't always kind to him. I'm just
Yes.
gonna leave it at that. She was not always kind. And
Yeah.
and to me, that doesn't make me think that you're grieving when you speak in that way. And the truth was, she really was. She's like, well, he was my husband for 13 years. I'm like,
Exactly.
yeah, but for 40 after that you were, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And that's the other
Yes.
thing. Grief does not make sense. I want to make sure people understand that it is not rational. You
And
can grieve something that you don't expect to be grieving. Maybe you hated a job and you leave it and you're missing the
but,
people.
but you're missing that part of the job that made you feel useful or productive. Maybe you did hate the job. Maybe you didn't even like the people you worked with, but there was something about the routine. It gave something to your life that has now been lost.
And
And I want, yeah, I
and
want,
I was sorry, I was just gonna say one of the things too is when it comes to like animals or like our
yes,
pets. I just want to say that there is something about losing a pet that can be, sometimes it feels even more so than our loved ones. And we think to
yeah.
ourselves, but why am I mean, literally the morning that we had to let go of my Rocky, I went through an entire box of tissues in the one
Oh,
morning.
yes,
And I
yes.
thought to myself, like I was sobbing like and they're different. Animals have a part of our heart because they fully give us theirs.
Well, I say it's our animals, like your animal loves you unconditionally, whereas your loved one maybe had some conditions placed on whether we were getting along. I had one gentleman tell me, he said, Bonnie, I cried harder when my dog Spotty died than when my dad died. He said, I just couldn't move through it. It was like it was so painful. And we talked about that dog really loved him unconditionally. He could come in any mood, say anything, and his dog loved him. So, yes, our pets, that's a part of that disenfranchisement grief. And so I wanted to add this, though. My husband is Cuban. And when my ex-husband died, I guess he told all of his friends, that he was talking to. And do you know, Reverend Gina, I was really surprised. They would all say, oh, can I speak to Bonnie? And they would say, I'm so sorry to hear that your ex-esposo murió. I mean, that your ex-husband died. I was really kind of taken back by that because I wasn't even getting that from my own circle of friends. It's like, oh, he died. Oh, sorry to hear that. But they were really uh, consolatory about, very consoling around that and understanding that. And
Every
so,
nationality is a different way of
mhm,
honoring it and
right.
how they react to it. And there are things, the gift is that we don't have to do it like anybody else.
Yes, yes, yes. And we're unique. We're like those snowflakes again. We can do anything we want. And Reverend Gina, that's why I'm so honored to be so privileged. I feel really privileged to be on your show today because I feel that the more you and I can talk about and we can help others, we help give others the vocabulary to talk about it. We the two of us together are help normalizing a subject that for so many is still not a normalized thing. And I want to also say to people, I don't want it to come off sounding that I'm proselytizing. You need to do this, this, and that. None of that. I want you to be in a state of compassion with yourself because think about it. Who taught you how to grieve? Who taught you how to grieve? You hear the thing about don't be a sore loser. But who's I mean, I remember getting told how to behave in church, how to sit up, and how you don't talk to kids like that on the playground. But really, who taught us how to grieve?
You know, I know for me, I was taught to be the caregiver. So
Yes.
I was taught to let you grieve. I was taught to walk you through your grief. And I have done that for countless people. I did it for my family in every way. And now they're all transitioned. And I was left with not having dealt with that grief. So when,
Exactly.
you know, one of the things recently I saw something, and it was Tyler Perry was on a special Oprah show that she had done.
Mhm.
And he said there was a woman that was asking him a question because he went with through a lot with his mom. And there was a lot of, and he shared, and I'm going to totally mess it, not quoting because but the sentiment was she was starting to cry as she asked the question, and she stopped herself and apologized. And he said, no, 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 you let it be, you let it breathe. He said, because I tried to run away from it. I tried working. He says, I tried eating. I tried, and he rattled off 8 different things. And he said, grief waited for me till I was
Yes.
done.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
right there waiting for me when I was done. There's nowhere to run from it. It's not something that you're going to get away from. It's going to be there waiting for you. So
Yes.
one way or another, it's going to find you. Why not allow it from the beginning so it doesn't wreak more havoc in our
Yes.
lives? Because that's what it really does. And the other thing that he said that really struck me was that the day that she took her last breath was the day that I really fully took my first.
Hmm. Oh, I'm just going to be with that for a minute. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
every time I say that or I think of that, I just it takes my breath away.
Yeah.
The
And then,
day she took her last breath
mm,
was the day that I was able to really take my first.
feels like such a sense of a release, sense of freedom for him. And oh, I just say this too, that so many people will feel very guilty about being relieved or being able to take that deep breath after someone dies,
Mm,
maybe feeling a sense of relief, that they feel such guilt for that.
yeah.
And I'm doing some studies with David Kessler, who's a big grief expert, and he was just saying, he said something that rang true when he said it, resonated with in me, that people would rather feel guilty than to feel hopeless and helpless. They'd rather feel guilty than to feel hopeless or helpless around the loss of a loved one. So I'm wondering how Tyler, did he go on to say if he felt what that deep breath was about? Was it,
Sometimes we're raised to be this. We're raised to be the caretakers. Many of us, not everyone, but it was always about, especially, and many people can resonate with if you had a loved one that you were the caretaker for at end of death or during an illness, that if they have, especially if people are going through something like cancer or something like that, that if they're having a good day, you're having a good day. And if
aha,
they're not having a good day, then you're on eggshells and
yes,
you can't even breathe. And
yes,
that happens a lot in life, that when someone that we love that much, it hurts to see them hurt, or it's
yeah,
almost like you're holding the breath to see what happens.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And no one really talks about that type of uh you
A
know
limit, or limitate that what that illness does is how it limits your life, how it limits you from being who it is that you are designed to be, maybe in that moment. You're
and also
very
the family
limited.
members, the
Yes,
people that
yes,
love you and care for you. It, it's a tough thing to be waiting to see how
yes,
someone's doing. How are you today? How's it going?
Yeah, you pretty much pushed the pause button on your own life. You paused your own life. And so I'm relating that back to Tyler Perry's taking that deep breath. Maybe
Yeah.
it's pushing the play button again, play that I can have my life.
Some people call it psychic chords, like, cutting the cords, the energetic cords, that, it's almost like consciously realizing that I don't need to carry someone else with me.
Yes.
We are energetically we hold on to people as it is. But there are everybody that we've ever been part of, if we carry those ties and that energy, and you're still thinking about them, you're still worrying about them, it's literally siphoning our
Life force.
our life force. Exactly. And that's how I didn't realize that until, honestly, the picture behind us shows us that too, that we give it away every day. And it wasn't until my mom transitioned that I realized that I was forcing my life force upon her for a decade. My sister had transitioned and she couldn't deal with it. So I was the cheerleader. I pushed and I prodded and I literally was giving my life force to try to make her want to be here.
Yes, yes. You were willing her to be, you were using all of your strength and life force and energies to keep her here. Wow.
And while it was very well intentioned, it's not appropriate. There's nothing, I don't blame myself. It's not, I did the best that I know how to do. And she
Yes.
appreciated it. And
Yes.
knowing what I know now, I would do things differently. But I trust that it was exactly the way that it was meant to be.
Yes. That it unfolded just the way it was designed to unfold. Nothing different to do. And learn and being an observation of what your behaviors were, being an observation. There's a Buddhist quote, and I can't quite get it, but whatever it is that you're going through it now, because one day you'll be able to support someone who will go through that very same thing.
Yes.
So if you can hold it that way, and knowing that you're moving through this, doing the best that you can.
So now that we've discussed all of the aspects of grief, give us some of the gifts. Some of the gifts that it brings up.
I wanted to say something before I move to the gifts, if you don't mind, just talking about grief and kind of embracing it. I said I'm going to write a book. The title of the book is going to be entitled Grief, My Most Intimate Lover. That grief is always there waiting. It curls up in bed at night with me. It doesn't matter if I'm sleeping with my husband or it waits to have its turn with me. I just thought if we could just bring some sense of lightness to it, to be able to really grasp it. I know it gets really heavy for some people. So that's why I want to help make it a little bit lighter, because the pain is definitely there. But if we can hold conversation around it, that makes it lighter, then able to really give voice to it. So
it's getting unstuck. It's literally just getting ourselves out of the stuckness of it.
And giving different perspectives to the same, just giving a different perspective to the same subject and conversation. But can I just read just a little bit of something here that I wrote and kind of found little bits and pieces that I've incorporated.
I'm looking forward to the book. You have to come back and tell us all about
Grief,
it.
My intimate lover, yes. Okay, I just want to say, so grief is one of the most humbling and challenging experiences we go through as human beings. It is also one of the most transformative. Grief changes us. We're no longer the people we were before that loss. We see through new eyes. Since grief works so deeply and so slowly within our psyches, we often need inspiration to stay with the process of healing. When we stay with this process for as long as it takes to heal, we tap into resources from within that enable us to emerge from that dark night of grief. And this is one of the gifts, that we are more expanded. There's an expansion. There's a courageousness that happens around confronting our grief. Connection is also another one. We start to connect with other people as we move through and move out of because we can't heal in isolation. Bell Hooks says that. We can't heal in isolation. So therefore we do start to connect. And then empowerment emerges, that we come away even more empowered than before. So expansion, courageousness, connection, and empowerment. And as grief shakes up our lives, it forces us to reevaluate what's really important in life. Grief then calls on us to recreate our lives in a way that incorporates these new perspectives and values. From this new foundation, energy begins to return and we feel empowered to act. So therefore, as you tap into your deep inner resources on your journey through this grief, you gain access to strength, vision, and purpose to make a difference with your life. And that's what leaves you empowered. And some of that is shared from some writings by Alexandria Kennedy. So I wanted to share that with you, to just say,
beautiful. You know,
yes,
it does. It causes empowerment in a different way. We know ourselves differently on the other side of, the strength, the courage, the resilience that you're speaking of. They've been through the fire, and it's kind of like an egg. Once you've boiled it, you can't unboil it. It looks the same, but the egg is different. You've been through the fire. You're different now. You're going to be in a different place, in a different way, you're not as fragile as before.
Exactly. And so many people that I've talked to that have said just that, how they look the same on the outside, but they're so changed inside. And taking on even new crafts, new artwork. There was one, oh gosh, a friend of a friend, put it that way, even started a business of parasailing after was her son that died in an accident with parasailing. And never putting the two together, you'd think you'd want to get away from that. But she thought, no, the pain that had been caused by that loss, that she wanted to make parasailing safe. And so then started building her own business to make parasailing safe. And she was herself like someone that worked in a library or wherever, just finding new parts of herself, accessing new parts of herself after such a tragedy. And it just brought her such a comfort to know that now she's offering parasailing in a way that can be safe,
And the joy that goes along with parasailing. So she has a different take on it. She can enjoy and doesn't have to lose out on that either. And that would be something that reminds her of him instead of condemning it as something that blame, things happen and we don't have to know why, and we don't have to like any of them. We don't have to like it.
Yes, I think when you're staying open to the pain of grief is what moves you through finding some sense of, I guess I use the word purpose, finding some sense of purpose, something that has come, that something positive that has come from such deep pain.
I've always believed that when my sister transitioned, at this point it's over 13 years ago, and almost 14, and she's, such a huge, she was my best friend, and it's one of those things that when I go through, so many, sometimes it feels like yesterday and sometimes it feels forever ago, but I remember thinking, I'm going through this and I want it to be for a purpose. I want to be able to, there's got to be some good that comes from this. What is it and how can I use it for good? And if I help someone else through it, then it wasn't for naught. I didn't experience the pain for nothing. I can actually turn it around and help other people understand it in a different way. And that's with anything in our lives, anything that we've been through, we now have the opportunity to help others through in a different way.
Exactly. And Reverend Gina, thanks for bringing up your sister. And what's her name?
Diane.
Diane?
Yep. I called her Bunky, though. That was my nickname, Bunky. And she still comes to me all the time. Actually, just this morning,
Bunky came.
she comes to me all the time. And then, and they come in different ways, our loved ones. Some people, it depends on who you are. But, I get music, songs that they loved, and I just know they're around. Sometimes you can smell their perfume.
Yes.
My grandfather, I could smell a cigar. Sometimes.
Wow. I believe that. Yes. I just wanted to add, Paul McCartney, his song "Let It Be," that he wrote that around his mother. His mother died when he was 14, I believe, from cancer. And it was later in life that he had a dream and that his mother came to him. And that's the song, "Let It Be." In the times of worry or darkness, she comes to me speaking words of wisdom.
And I think her name was Mary as well.
Yes, and that's the story that stays. And what I was going to add to that from my own story about moving through grief, and this, in 2020, I lost my baby brother. I had a geographical move, which was a big loss. And then I lost my oldest sister, Linda, who I called Cookie, all in the same year. It's like 2020, just talk about that cumulative grief. I got sucker punched and gut punched. But it led, in that deep pain is what led me to the realization that I am very comfortable with talking about grief. If I'm very comfortable, then I can help others. I can help others just holding the space for them. Not that I'm curing their grief. I'm holding the space for them to grieve. And I always say there's 3 pillars of grief. That grief, to heal, to start the healing process, is that grief needs to be heard. Grief needs to be validated. And grief needs to be shared. And that is what you and I are doing right here, right now, Reverend Gina. We are sharing.
We are absolutely honoring it and making it a general conversation.
Yes,
it's
normalizing.
So important, saying it out loud. We're here. We're meant to hurt. We're meant to have when something's not there anymore. 2020 was devastating
for everyone on the planet.
And I had I was watching The View, of all things, the other day, and basically I guess politically they were tweeting, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And financially, there's a lot of people that are struggling. And that is a grief. When you are not in a comfortable place, that is definitely a grief. When you're worried about bills or can't do the things that you used to do or want to do. And
it's a change. It's an unexpected change or a not planned for change. It's a change that you did not sign up for.
And they were talking about how, what really went on 4 years ago. And they were showing the news conferences, and they were showing supermarkets that had nothing on the shelves. They were showing, the lines outside of hospitals. We think of what was really going on 4 years ago. We were in the depths of hell, literally.
Yes.
Everybody has people that were lost at that time.
Everybody knows.
And for me, I lost a lot of, even, and as humbling as it is to say it, I'm going to say it, because for me, the more I say something out loud, it doesn't own me. I have some physical stuff that is diagnosed of me. And in those 4 years, actually the first, 2 years, I was pretty much in the house because I was told to stay there because I was, I didn't want to get this or to get sick. And as a result, I lost mobility in a big way. And if there's nothing more humbling than to be able to do for everyone and everything your whole life, and then you can't do anything.
Suddenly you can't do anything for you. Yes.
It's been a long walk, and there's a lot of grief in that. Yes. And I'm acknowledging it, and I allow it, and I deal with it, and I move through it, and then it comes back. And they're waves. And sometimes the waves are hourly, sometimes they're once a week. But I encourage people, if there's something that you don't want to say out loud that you're feeling, that's when you need to say it.
Yes.
That's when you really know, yes, this is what I need to talk about. Because I wish I talked about it 2 years prior, but I didn't.
Right, Rev Gina. I just wanted to add as well from 2020, and I want to make this, I think I may have brought this up, but when we have one loss, it brings up all the losses that we've had. And when I talked about that cumulative grief and my own experience with grief, with losing my brother and losing other things, then losing my sister, even now, this is 4 years later, I feel like I have not mourned her passing. And when I say mourning, I feel like sometimes in grief, maybe let's keep it in the eye, I want to move quickly through the mourning onto the grieving. But for me, I'm feeling that I really need to mourn my sister's transition. And when I say mourning, that is that just falling apart, falling down, falling out, the wailing that I, at that point, did not have I call it the soul energy to move through at that time. But now I feel that I'm ready. And I want to let people know that just because they say that someone died 20 years ago or they had a loss 15 years ago, it doesn't mean that it's over and gone from your psyche, from your physical body. So whenever it comes up, lean into it, be with it.
I just want to say, it's going to come up. There are going to be times, whether it's their birthday, whether it's an event. Easter was a day that I spent the last hour of the day with my mother and sister's picture with me, the three of us, right here for an hour or two, just leaving it right there so I could just be with them. You don't know when it's going to hit, but you do know that it is. And when it does, we don't have to push it back down. Exactly. We don't have to give that energy and life force away, holding it back. Because once we've let go of it, we rejuvenate. And we're honoring them in that.
Exactly. I just so appreciate your saying that. And I want to say that the more we can just that's called leaning into what you're feeling.
Yes.
But each time it could get just a wee bit less. That intensity of it will not always be as it was that first, those first moments, first days, first months, first years.
Well, we're not as vulnerable because we know it's like an elastic. Oh, I did bounce back. I do trust myself. I'm not going to fall apart. It's
Yeah.
not going to break me. It's just emotions.
Yes.
And I may not like them, but I will come back from them.
Yes. Not all emotions I welcome, but as Rumi's guest house says, whatever shows up, meet them at the door laughing. They may be a crowd of sorrows there that sweeps your house empty of its furniture, but it could be clearing you out for some new delight.
And it's going to show up when it needs to show up, and you can set a day, you can go the places you loved, you can do things to bring it up, or you can,
Exactly.
whatever it takes. That's why we have memorials. That's why we have celebrations.
Exactly. Memorials that come and go every year. We have a little bit of a celebration around the same things. I was reading something and I so love this idea. And tell me what you think. That we should have like a grief spa or grief temples. And it's a place that you can just go to like fall apart, wail, scream, just fall apart and have it be in a safe place. And I thought, oh yeah, we could have one of those spas on every corner and you could just go in at any time and just let go. I worked in hospitals for many years, and there used to be a chapel in every hospital, a place that you could go, and it would be a quiet
In every
place.
hospital.
Yes,
But
now they're gone. I just
in the Northeast, we still have them.
Oh gosh,
I know we still have them.
Hospitals that I worked in did not have them anymore. And this was just last year in California. It was a brand new hospital. And I just said, oh, where's the sanctuary? The chapel. And they said, oh, we don't have a sanctuary. I said, well, what about a chapel? No. So if Boston you're in greater Boston area, right?
No, I'm in Rhode Island actually. But
Rhode
Island. I've yet to be the one that didn't have one. So we're old school here. So we still have them. And
you renewed my hope and faith in hospitals.
But wherever you are, it can be sacred, and it's just about making it that way. And I've seen it several times on Facebook or wherever, but the little meme where there's an old man crying, and there's a little boy that sees him crying in a park, and he just sits beside him, doesn't say a word, and just cries with him. I just helped him cry.
Exactly. Oh, I love that.
And it's beautiful because that's the compassion that we need for others and ourselves.
Yes.
Just help them cry. And that's the best thing. I say it so often. When you don't know what to say, call anyway.
Exactly. And just say, I don't know what to say.
I have no answers, but I'm thinking of you. I love you, and I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here. And it won't break you to do that. Anybody, you're not going to become depressed over somebody else's emotions.
Exactly.
It's a gift. But we're running out of time, as we always do.
Oh, right. I know. I was just going to throw ritual in there. We can throw ritual and we can come back to ritual.
Yeah,
how ritual can really give us a reconnected, a sense of being in control again, because grief can rob us of that sense of control. But we'll save that for next time, rituals and what rituals are wonderful and what rituals help and blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's not blah, 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 but we'll definitely go into
definitely not blah, 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 but go into some of the aspects of ritual.
Your show, I want people to know, Mondays on New Thought Media Network. It is 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. where I am, same time as this show is. On, I'm on Thursdays, you're on Mondays. And it's your doula for grief, and you take people and you have guests that it's wonderful to help in amazing ways. And thank you for what you do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm thankful that I can do it.
And actually, back on this for 1 second, I just want to note, you can go to the website as far as you can go to her website, and you can go to YouTube, type in Bonnie Gonzalez, and you're going to get all of the old, your doodle for grief. You'll get all of the past episodes of this. So I encourage you to take take a spin through that. But you can go to the website or you can email her here. And I also just wanted to mention that you're going to be.
Yes. April 12th. If you are in the Chapala area here in Mexico, I am going to be leading a soul collage. I'm really calling a soul collage retreat, but it's to begin our healing from grief, to begin our journey of healing from grief. Please join me. It's going to be a wonderful afternoon of music, meditation, soul collage making, journaling. I am just so looking forward to it. And we do have limited space and it's getting full. So please, if you're here, and if you're not here, if you know someone that's in this area, give them a call and say, hey, check out yourdoulaforgrief.com. So thank you, Reverend Gina. We need a 2-hour program. You're muted, Reverend Gina.
Sorry about that. Tell us about the conference.
Oh, and the Conference of the Americas is happening right here in Chapala, right on the lake, and that is August 6th through August 10th. Come sign up. You can contact me and I can send you the link to get registered now. They're starting a wonderful payment plan if that's something that helps you get here. So all efforts are being made to assist you in getting down here. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I look forward to seeing you.
Absolutely. And it was amazing. I heard last time, and I'm sure this year will be even better. So I'm excited for you. And of course, this is to people to reach you, whether it's your website, yourdoulaforgrief.com, or your email, Bonnie@yourdoulaforgrief.com, to make sure that people reach out to you. Absolutely. And I have one Sacred Circle at 7 every Thursday night. Yes. Anyone and everyone is welcome. And it is at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And this is always the ID for Zoom, the meeting ID and passcode. We would love for you to join us. And of course, our beloved Bonnie has led several times. It's always a different spiritual leader and a different message. But I encourage people to join us. It is wonderful. We have people from all over the world that come in to share, and it's always different topics. And today we have this evening, it's going to be Reverend Katie Roxburgatti that's going to be leading this evening.
Beautiful.
So she is, and she's going to be leading this evening. So if there's any questions about that, people can always reach out to me as well. So I appreciate that. And you can find my information and Bonnie's right below this, wherever you're watching. It has it in the actual description. So I'm so grateful to have had you here with us. Thank you for being here. And
so privileged. It's an honor. Thank you, Reverend Gina.
And
for your continued wonderful good health. Prayers for continued good health.
I get better and better every day in every way, as Louise Hay would say. And it's knowing that, and really knowing and being in that and celebrating it, and knowing that, it's okay, that it's all okay.
It's all God.
It is, and it's all good. There's gifts from everything. So everyone, I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for knowing this, that grief has gifts that comes with it, and honoring yourself and others that are stepping through it. So finding the joy in the journey begins with acknowledging where you are. So wherever you are, thank you for being here and knowing that it's a beautiful day right here, right now, because you always have access to joy. So much love and blessings. Namaste.
Namaste. Gracias. Besitos.